welcome to Gierok Farms. It is a beautiful fall morning here. It is day number 3 of picking corn. We had a really big solid day yesterday. A little hiccup with the picker though. We had a chain here that came off the sprocket, but we got the chain back on the sprocket in no time and we were up and running within 10-15 minutes. So that wasn't too big of a mishap. If that's the only glitch we're gonna have, I'll take that. The plan today is to fill the last crib. It should go pretty quick being the crib's already a quarter full. The corn's yielding pretty well. We're super happy with that. This morning here, I've been getting equipment ready, checking oil, fueling up. Now I'm gonna grease the picker here, oil the chains, and adjust that chain that we had fall off yesterday. I'm gonna tighten both sides. Dad's gonna start off picking today, but if everything's going smooth, it sounds like Mason and I are gonna get a chance to run the picker, which will be nice. Mix things up a little bit and get some experience running this thing. I've ran it a couple times in the past, but not a whole lot of hours on it, so that'll be fun. That should be interesting. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, and if you want to stick around and you haven't subscribed yet, we recommend doing that. That way you can stay up to date on everything we got going on here and see our videos as they come out. We post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We're posting 3 days out of the week, so plenty of great content for you guys to watch. Also, for those of you who have been watching for a while, you may have seen these hats in the video for over the past year now. I am happy to let you know that we are now selling these hats at GierokFarms.com. If you want to support us in more ways than just watching the videos, or if you just want to get yourself a cool hat, go to GierokFarms.com. Greatly appreciate it. But that's enough for talking. We'll get into the video here. I'm gonna keep working on this picker, and then shortly here, we'll be headed to the fields.
Yet?
No.
You don't go much tighter than that. That's pretty. You don't need to go much. Somewhere around a third of the way down, and you might want to get off and count your rows to diving in the right spot.
Yep.
You don't end up with an odd row there.
On the guess row.
On the guess row. From the bottom up then. Some places I might not have planted it just perfect. So you can see it in the corner of your eye if your picker's starting to knock some down. And you just kind of crawl down a little bit. Because if the picker is not all, it's up some, the stocks can bend. And then your cob elevator, of course, I always shut it off before I get to the end, so then...
So I finished tightening those chains I was talking about. Dad started greasing here, and he was mentioning yield like I was, how I thought it was yielding better than in the past, and you had a really good note that you were picking, in the past you were picking 10 rows to get a full gravity wagon, and this year you were more around that 8.
So you sold on that same field, and you got all your end rows off, you could use that like a gauge. Yeah, it was 10 rows and almost had to get off to shove it back in the box, but this year was the same thing on 8. And the cobs are a little bigger with the dry weather on a heavy bottom like that. Usually it's wetted out some, so some of the cobs are smaller on the other end. Anyway, they're filled out right to the end.
Like I was during my yield check video, that definitely had the least amount of tip back there, even though the kernel count wasn't maybe as long. It was bigger kernels and a filled out cob.
So there's so many little things that you, because we've been doing this our whole life, and you go out and you look at it and you say, well, that's going to do really good, but until you actually get in there with the machine and have it in the wagons or in the bins, it sometimes can fool you.
Yeah, don't count your eggs until they're hatched or whatever, or chickens until they're hatched.
Yeah, all that stuff. So didn't like the stocks. Now driving this thing, I know a lot of you guys driven these. And almost every farm around here when I was growing up had these mounted pickers. And from year to year, it's always different. Quality of the corn, how it's been drying, the weather we had. Sometimes it's so dirty and dusty and the stalks are falling apart as they're going through. You got to slow down. You got to let the picker clean out all the time. We had it where it's breaking the stalks off if you're moving too fast, or if you're not exactly perfect on the roll. This year it's all different. It's hanging on nice, it's flowing through nice, it's not as dirty, and dusty. It's more nice to run a machine like this.
That's why I want to run it now in the morning, and then if Mason runs it later, and that'll be dustier.
It's I would like to know this, because these machines came out in the 60s and through the 70s, and I think by the early 80s they stopped building all this. But you guys may be the two youngest men in this whole country that are running something like this. Other than some hobby unit, maybe you might be playing around with it or trying to.
I'm sure there's a handful of guys that.
Yeah, but I'm saying usually once you get past my era, that's who's gonna mount them up. Who's they might do it just because it's unique.
Anyways, you mentioned not going fast. What gear were you driving in?
Oh, we were always in first gear, and then we'll use the torque amp there to slow a little bit. If the only place, like yesterday evening, we had some trouble, we had a chain jump off, but that's where all the rows come together. So we got our headland rows all the way around the field, and where they meet, because our planter doesn't shut off. Right?
Yeah, he doesn't have all the clutches on his row units. He's he's overplanting a little.
So. Then there's places where you're picking two rows because that, where the field comes together like that. So there's so much stock, you got to slow down and let.
Yeah, and with this high bushel yield here, you can't,
And the other thing is when these pickers were built, I don't know if 200 bushel yield was very common. These probably were only built for 150 or less. I mean, it's the thing, and you're trying to shove this.
A lot of plant matter too. Bigger stalk, bigger cob, and everything.
And there's so many different things. So the corn isn't bred for picking. We get a little bit of shelling, but when it comes to the economics of this, what we're doing, this tractor, whether we put 20 hours on it picking or not, is not going to make the value go any different. We got fuel, and our time is really our expense of picking. This machine is really worth nothing in iron, it's iron price. We lose a little shelled corn, which this year I don't think it's too bad considering it's actually drier than it looks.
I don't know if it was because it was getting darker or if it was when we switched the field, but I noticed that last field seemed the cobs were holding together better.
Yeah, they're wetter. So we try to dive for, every year is so different. So like this year, it's still not real cold yet, but it has been getting a little more blustery and cooler. So you don't want to pick corn when it's warm out and hot, especially if the corn isn't dry. It won't cure right. But if it's cold, even if it's 20%, it'll keep. By spring it'll be fine, but the wetter it is, the less shelling you get. But then you have that fine line where you don't want to put it in too wet neither. Some places in the crib it might mold a bit. I'm thinking 18, 19, maybe 20%. So we're a little wetter there, and that's what you want. You don't shell, and I can usually tell by just looking at what I can see. I can see through the cob elevator what's going through for shell. I can already see some of the cobs got a few kernels missing on the bottom where it snapped them off. And that's the price we pay for picking, but then our storage is cheap. There's no air dry, no mechanical drying at all of any kind. We can cheat in other ways where we can get some value there and not have to, like high moisture, only put it in bags or whatever you put it in, it's gotta be sealed. You gotta, you can't just dump a whole big pile out and then it gets hot on you. This way, we can cheat with this here. I like it. Dry feed, it's usually healthier for your cattle. It's more,
there's more fiber in this. I tested it during like an animal feed class when I was in college, and this had a high fiber content. So
the cob, it's less likely something could overeat because it's kind of like like your TMR in a sense. They have to eat it all. They can't just pick out what they want. And where you got just shelled grain, that's pretty potent stuff.
Yep. So this is great, but anyways, we're gonna keep getting the picker ready here. Dad's gonna finish greasing, and I'm gonna grab the oil these big chains, and then we'll be headed to the field here soon. things have been going pretty smooth. The wind has picked up, but all in all, it's been pretty good. I'm definitely noticing where it was a bit sandier on the hilltop and where there was a bit heavier soil, wetter soil down in the dips slash where the water would run. There's a huge difference in the yield and how big the stalks are. It's a super noticeable difference. A majority of it looks really good. Mason, he's been hauling loads. Dad, he's been grinding corn down there, filling up bins in our barns and the mixer, just making as much room as possible because we won't fit all this corn in the crib. So we'll probably end up having to combine some later on, but we're gonna make as much fit as possible. Then there's less for the combine to do. We're gonna keep plugging away here. I'll check back in probably once Mason and I switch. I'm probably gonna do one more and then Mason will hop on here and give her a whirl. Picking overall has still been going pretty smooth. This last round I had to stop about halfway through a pass. Got kind of plugged up on me. Had to shut everything down, back up, cleared out some of the chaff. It was starting to build up down in here. Then once I did that, ran it, let it all fall out, then I was able to get going again. So pretty minor stuff so far. Happy with how everything's going. Wind's really starting to pick up. It's getting pretty dusty on here. The video is taking a little long. We're going to split it into two parts. Thank you all for sticking to the end. Thank you all for watching. If you want to get yourself one of these hats, go check us out at gierokfarms.com. That's Gierok farms.com, all lowercase. Go check us out if you want to get yourself one of these awesome hats. But that's going to be it. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.